what's happening right now in the immunity case is Judge Chutkan ruled against Trump, saying, you don't have immunity for this nonsense. No, it does not help you here, sir. And Trump was going to appeal this to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. But instead, Jack Smith said, forget it. I don't want to waste time with them. I want Supreme Court to hear it right now. So he, even though he was the winner, he leapfrogged the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, went right to Supreme Court and said, hey, please hear this case right now. And the Supreme Court gave him the boot on the forehead and said, get out of here. No, it's not time for you. Like, go back to the D.C. Circuit and follow procedure. That's how things go, no matter how much of a rush you're in, sir. So he did. So now he's bringing that case to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, and the arguments are scheduled for Tuesday, January 9th. I mean, it's happening fast. That's actually going to be really interesting. I can't wait to hear how that goes. So he's going to argue, and Trump's team is going to argue that the president had immunity for everything he's being prosecuted for in the D.C. trial court. In the meantime, whatever the D.C. Circuit Court rules will be appealed by the loser. And at that point, the Supreme Court will have to decide once again whether it wants to take it now that it's procedurally ripe for the Supreme Court. So that's where I want to start. Forget what the D.C. Circuit Court does for now. I don't care how it goes. The Supreme Court would be the most interesting. So will they take it, or will they find a way to weasel out of taking it and just say, review denied, like we deny review in virtually all cases, we deny review here, and leave it with the D.C. Circuit? Dave, your thoughts?
I think they're going to deny review, Megyn. I think they're going to defer to the appellate court ruling that's going to come out. That's going to be ruled in an expedited way. In contrast to our last discussion about the 14th Amendment, I think this one is clear-cut. It's a slam dunk. There is no way that a president gets absolute immunity, because if that were the case, then Joe Biden could arrest Donald Trump, could cancel the election and say, hey, look, I have absolute immunity. See, it's not so funny when the shoe's on the other foot. And that's why I think that the appellate court is going to reject it quickly and outright. And the U.S. Supreme Court is going to say, we defer to their ruling. And then it's game on in Washington, D.C.
It's so comfortable, Mike, for the Supreme Court to be like, we didn't do it. It was the D.C. Circuit. We're busy.
Look, the Supreme Court, if the D.C. Circuit does not hold that the president of the United States at a baseline level, any president has immunity from criminal prosecution for what that president does in his official capacity as the president of the United States, or in the outer perimeter of his official capacity, which is the Supreme Court precedent for civil immunity, the Supreme Court's going to have to take that case. Because think about it this way. Congress, members of Congress under the speech or debate clause are immune both civilly and criminally for their official conduct, right? Judges are immune civilly and criminally for their official conduct. Right now, presidents are immune civilly. And the reason the courts have not established that presidents are immune criminally is because no president has ever been charged with a crime until the Democrats brought this unprecedented lawfare against President Trump, where they've indicted him now 4 times, right? So the issue is going to be, does the Supreme Court establish at a baseline minimum that the president of the United States is immune from criminal prosecution for his official acts, or the outer perimeter of his official acts, like the other 2 branches of government? They are going to have to decide that case, right? And they can decide that very narrowly that yes, the president of the United States is immune criminally from prosecution for his official conduct. Because if he's not, think about it this way. President Trump gets back into office. President Trump orders his attorney general to arrest and prosecute for murder President Obama for the drone strike of 2 American citizens, including a 16-year-old American citizen, an extrajudicial drone strike. Obama did not go to a court. He did not get any order. He just ordered a drone strike under his commander-in-chief power as the president of the United States. Does the president have the power to kill American citizens abroad under his commander-in-chief power? Do the Democrats really want to go down this path where they argue that the president of the United States is not immune criminally for his official acts? Why would the president not be immune criminally, but he's immune civilly? It doesn't make sense.
Okay, but here's the wrinkle. Here's the wrinkle for President Trump. And I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about this. As we said, In the civil lane, it is well established that in virtually all cases, you can't sue the president for acts he was doing while president. We don't want our presidents distracted with this, with very narrow exceptions. But there is a DC Circuit opinion. That's the case. That's the circuit court right above Judge Chutkan. There's a DC Circuit opinion in a civil case that recently came down in the civil lane again. And here's what they said. It was a December 30th opinion, but they were quoting an earlier ruling by themselves. And here's the quote. Whether President Trump's actions involved speech on matters of public concern bears no inherent connection to the essential distinction between official and unofficial acts. This is the critical sentence, quote, when a first-term president opts to seek a second term, his campaign to win re-election is not an official presidential act. The office of the presidency as an institution is agnostic about who will occupy it next, and campaigning to gain that office is not an official act of office. So what they're saying there, Dave, is that we see a distinction between President Obama launching a drone strike or Trump taking out Soleimani, and when the guy is acting more not as president, but as candidate for re-election, which is not an official duty of the president.
Exactly. And that's why I think this is a slam dunk. I mean, we don't have a king. We have a president. And if you give him absolute immunity, we're going to have a king. I mean, according to Donald Trump, he cannot be impeached for his conduct. And now he can't be charged after he gets out of office. And we know while he's in office, he cannot be criminally charged because that's the policy of the DOJ. So we'd have a king. And yes, that ruling, I think, says all you need to know, that elections are in the province of the states, not the federal government. It's in the Constitution. The federal government does not run elections, not even federal elections. So it's not up to the president to start digging into whether there was illegality in a state's election. So that's why this case is going to be rejected on presidential immunity grounds. And then the Supreme Court, I think, is not even going to review it.
What about that, Mike? If the court finds, as it did in the DC Circuit Court of Appeals, as it did in this case, it just decided that campaigning for re-election or objecting to the procedure that happened in a vote because it didn't benefit you or you think it was unfair as the candidate for re-election, that's not the official duties of a president that would lead to immunity. And so we don't need to even get to any other larger question. All we're going to say is very clearly challenges to the way the vote went down are in your capacity as an individual seeking re-election, not your official presidential responsibilities.
Well, President Trump on January 6th acted in two different capacities. He acted as the president of the United States with the constitutional duty to take care that the laws are executed. That's in his presidential capacity. He also acted as a presidential candidate that day, advocating for the Congress to reject the vote, to not certify the vote. That's in his personal capacity. First of all, it's not illegal to object to presidential elections. And that's where Jack Smith and Democrats are getting this all wrong. It's not illegal to object to presidential elections. It is specifically allowed by the Electoral Count Act of 1887. If it were illegal, Democrats would be in jail for objecting to Republican wins in 1968, 2000, 2004, 2016. We don't see Al Gore and John Kerry and I don't even know who lost, the three Democrats who lost in jail, Hillary Clinton, for losing the presidential election and objecting like they did, right? And so what happened was they objected to the election. That was in his personal capacity. That is allowed by the Electoral Count Act of 1887. It's also allowed by the First Amendment. The riots that occurred, that was in the president's official capacity. The Democrats are alleging that as the president of the United States, he did not stop the riot. That they're saying that he did not stop it in time. He did not order the DC National Guard into the Capitol to stop the riot. And as the president of the United States, he's the commander-in-chief. He runs the DC National Guard. Unlike the states where the governors run the National Guard, the president runs the National Guard. So they're saying that he did not send in the National Guard fast enough. Okay, well, can a presidential candidate send in the National Guard, the DC National Guard? Can a private citizen send in the DC National Guard? No, only the president of the United States can send in the National Guard.
Negative dings on credit reports happen to all sorts of people from all socioeconomic backgrounds. Understanding the credit landscape can be extremely tough, and spending the time to dispute and repair these so-called dings can be a full-time job. Good luck to you if you already have one of those or kids or anything going on. For starters, you have to deal with 3 separate credit bureaus, which no one wants to do. It's also a common misconception that people with poor credit scores are just people who don't pay their credit card bills. They just simply don't want to do it. These actually can be hardworking folks who are negatively affected by divorce, identity theft, medical debt, student loans, or they just don't have the time or are too overwhelmed to fix it. But if you do not address negative credit items, they can haunt you for years to come. And when it counts the most, like when you're trying to get a mortgage at a competitive rate. The good news is our sponsor, Lexington Law, would like to help you. Go to lexingtonlaw.com and start today with a free consultation and review. Tell them Megyn sent you at lexingtonlaw.com. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.